When I first found out that our whole semester was all about our knees, I seems to have a lost interest in this subject, and I thought this entire semester will be boring. I also don't have enough knowledge when it comes to the field of using the Arnis stick. So that's why my expression when I found out that Arnis will be our topic for the whole semester. But I made a mistake. Since we are doing activities and project, I gladly like the topic this semester, the use of Arnis. So I really like the topic this semester.
I'm an enthusiast when it comes to martial arts. I like playing combat sports and sparrings, as I think for me, it looks really cool while having benefits at the same time. When I found out that Arnis will be the main topic for the whole semester, of course, I got intrigued. Arnis is a self-defense Filipino martial art that uses baston as the main combat weapon. As it has been taught to us, I consider it really enjoyable as I usually do my projects together with my classmates. We practice the proper stances as such together, which includes laughing every time we made a mistake as the recording started. Also, I felt cool when I swing the baston and there is a swoosh sound. All in all, I guess this Arnis semester really helped me to gain knowledge about self-defense, which I can somehow use in the future.
Truthfully, what came to mind initially was that we are lucky to have a lesson that we were familiar with for this last semester. For years on end, we have Arnis as a part of our physical education subject. It is a vast topic, yet we usually do not have all the time to talk about it. For this semester, our knowledge of the subject at hand widened, allowing us students to familiarize ourselves with common stances, gripping, and striking techniques. All in all, it was an amazing learning experience, and we are truly fortunate to have it once again.
As an athlete, I am really excited to learn more things about Arnis since it is one of my weaknesses and I never imagined myself trying this sport. However, this semester really challenged me because it is all about self-learning. I also admit that it is hard to depend on the provided videos on the modules because it is way different when someone really teaches and corrects you physically.
To me, a show like Netflix Cobra Kai is more of an experience than a show, and I've always felt this way about it. I had the fun of my life watching the series, embodying the concept of martial arts. Thus, I am eager to somehow experience being a martial artist, a person who bears a great knowledge in defending himself through stick fighting. Once I found out that this semester will cover the concept of Arnis, I had hoped to learn some fundamental abilities of various strikes.
Quite interesting when I heard that our PA subject for this semester is all about our knees, knowing that in times of this pandemic, it is quite difficult to execute different physical activities as to the limited resources of what we have. It made me think that Arnis is fun mostly in self-defense, which in reality, we really need it. I'm very excited about different activities since I have already experienced Arnis in my previous school year.
Well, the first thing that I thought of when I found out we are studying Arnis this semester is the question, do I have Arnis sticks? Since I am not sure whether my mother has discarded my previous ones as it was already old. I was worried about where to get not only one but two Arnis, but I did not deal with this issue as I muttered to myself that my future self would deal with the future problems. Though I already had something in mind back then. I was also thrilled and relieved since this martial art was something we studied back in junior high, so I expected that the skills I learned during that time would have some use here. However, I also thought that there should be some new lessons not covered back then that will be discussed in senior high, and for that, I was excited to learn about this new set of elements about Arnis.
One of the biggest problem I face every time I do activities or output is getting a video. Because I am the only one and my companions are often busy here at home. I have a hard time filming my activities, and that's one of the problems that I will encounter this semester.
There are several problems that I encountered while making my activities. First is that I don't own a baston as I didn't get the chance to buy one. Another thing that gave me a hard time is when I try to record myself. Doing the outputs of Arnie's videos requires space as it can hit the other things in our house, as we also don't have that much space at home. And every time I do my videos, I won't fit on the entire recording. For instance, if I try to record myself, half of my body is not visible, or I may overflow on the left side and so. However, as I've been trying so hard, I find a solution for it. I go to my classmate's house, whom I can work the output with. In this way, I can borrow his baston, he can take a clear video of me, and we can go to their playground for a much more spacious place.
I would say that some of the common problems that I have faced with my activities and outputs would be my lack of space both at home and with my recording device. With my videos, one would often see how I record in different places, such as in our study room, living room, garage, or even sometimes outside of the house. As for my recording device, which would be my mobile phone, there would be instances where I would have to delete some outtakes to allot storage space for better and final takes.
I always make the same mistake, and that is to forget to click the record button on my cell phone. And aside from that, I also find hard to not laugh during the serious times.
Small spaces while performing the activities is somehow difficult, and quite sad that I can be able to recreate the experience of an actual martial arts gym. I am not lucky enough to have a spare room that I can convert into home gym, which might help me in executing my activities with precise and mental focus. That is not to say that I am unable to do anything in my own room. Still, some way, I managed to perform my activities the best that I could.
The difficulties that I mostly encountered were proper execution of the right stances that required the skills needed. Since all the activities were through an online platform, I wasn't sure about if I'm doing the right stance even if I do have the reference on it, as no one is able to guide all throughout and teach me the right skills and execution needed personally.
With regards to the problems, I think time constraint is the trouble I mostly cross paths with in this class. I am not saying that the allotted period was not adequate to perform the task. It is definitely more than what is needed. However, since there were other activities both in my personal and academic life that I needed to accomplish, my schedule was all entangled with one another, which resulted in more pressure and stress on my side when coping with the shortage of time I have for this subject.
One of the methods I employed was to carry out the skills required in each activity. First, there are the time management abilities. The more action I do, the earlier I complete them so that I can improve on each task I submit. I also use my self-confidence and self-esteem also to help me perform well in all of my given activities.
As I tried to execute the skills, I watched the video provided first multiple times. I tried to focus on which is which, such as which foot is needed to go backward, is it the right or the left, which hand should hold the baston, and so. As I have already reviewed it, I now try to execute it. Of course, the first time I tried to execute it, I have made mistakes or I suddenly forgot the next step that should be executed. However, as I have tried to practice it multiple times, I slowly memorize it and execute it properly.
As a student, I believe it is essential to refer to guide videos given by our respective instructors. It is what I do to execute the skills and techniques I need for the activities properly. Besides that, I would also commit to practicing until I am satisfied with my performance. I would memorize and verify the accuracy of both the steps and commands that I have learned to ensure that I can execute the skills and techniques needed as required.
I use my power in executing my movement to properly learn the right movement of our knees. It is just one lesson here in this subject, but it is still a useful knowledge, especially during the unexpected times.
Lynn helped me to ensure building a great knowledge about martial arts and proper execution. I am having a hard time learning the most advanced martial art techniques, and discipline guides me to make progress from time to time. as I move from one goal to the next and work to get better at every skills.
The strategy that I did is always give power with every striking movement. It must have the energy from moving from one position to one another. The power that I release while doing the activity shows more confidence in what you are doing and shows you're capable of in your defense.
I strongly believe that commitment, diligence, and enjoyment really play a vital role in the process of learning and execution of the movements and other proficiencies essential in the completion of the activities. Commitment, because I would not have been as successful if I just did whatever I wanted without putting in the effort, and I knew that dedication to each skill necessary is paramount. Diligence, since it was crucial to be thorough with my movements, which would enable me to perform every skill precisely and masterfully. Ultimately, enjoyment, as I always wanted to have fun and cherish each moment I have in the subject, and not be serious about every little thing, which would only put more burden on myself, making it difficult to carry out tasks.
I believe I will be able to use the lesson I will learn in this subject in the future. Using arnis, we know that one of the methods to defend oneself against evil individuals. Using this tradition defensive strategy, the arnis sticks. However, we must never forget that arnis should only be employed in specific situation. What was been learned should not be applied acts of weekend or violence. And that concludes my assessment of the semester.
Giving all the lessons that I have learned in this entire semester would be too much for this video. However, I can mention a few takeaways that truly have highlighted in my knowledge. First is the background of the arnis. What is arnis? Where does it come from? These questions have been answered from the start of the semester. Another thing is the advantages of performing this martial art. After that, we go much deeper into the proper execution of arnis. I have learned many things with regard to this. The proper stances, stick exercises, basic proper striking techniques, the proper way of holding the baston, and the año uno and año dos. It is important to know and properly execute this, since if an individual is not informed about this, it can bring an advantage to the opponent. For instance, if the baston was not properly held, the baston can be easily stolen by the opponent. If a proper stance was not executed, the opponent can easily hit you on your open areas and so many other things. And that's all thanks to our subject teachers.
The lessons I have learned in this subject, for one, are of course the topics themselves. As I have said, it allowed students to accustom themselves to some techniques taught in the field of arnis. Knowing how arnis can be used for self-defense and the like, such learning can go a long way as we face the real world. On the other hand, in a different meaning, the lessons I have learned in this subject that I may use in the future are the values of perseverance and discipline. I, for one, have used this in performing activities. And surely, these are some things that I would like to carry on with my life for years to come.
The lessons that I have learned in this subject is to use it in the most difficult and dangerous times, because we could really defend ourselves even if it just looks like a simple stick, but there's a lot of techniques and strikes we could do. Also, the way I discipline myself when I plan my day just to focus on learning on the provided videos on what.
Being a young teenager today is not as simple as adults assume. Everything is uncertain. Everything could happen to us all of a sudden. There are no clues, no hints. So learning this skill of martial arts is something that we should carry as we progress in life. I've started to realize that our knowledge about arnis is a weapon to be prepared in any circumstance while boosting our confidence and values.
This subject made me reflect that with a simple kind of stick, there is a sport or a kind of activity where I can be able to defend myself in times of in need. It doesn't need many types of equipment as a requirement, but it requires a lot of knowledge and skills in performing different execution. This knowledge could definitely help in my future path in every environment. It is beneficial as I could develop more of my skills and even influence other people with this kind of activity. Without our knees, it will be very tough to apply basic self-defense skills in any circumstance.
For the lessons I learned in this subject that will be of use in the future, the three self come in. First is self-defense. Martial arts like arnis will definitely come in handy in my life until I draw my last breath, since you never know when you might need the skills to defend yourself. Hopefully, I will not implement it someday in the future, but it is much better to be safe than sorry. Next is self-esteem. In this subject, videos and pictures of myself are essential, since that is the only way to tell if we really are doing tasks about physical education. Of course, it can be sometimes embarrassing, since there will be people watching you execute the tasks. However, I learned to accept this truth and to be proud of myself and my output, which I will certainly find its usefulness in future performances. Lastly is self-perseverance. I understood how to uphold my convictions and always put 100% of my blood, sweat, and tears, maybe even more, into everything I would do.